right, on the computer. Okay. There he is. I guess I'll let him in. It's funny day. Everybody go. There we go. Just breathe. There we go. I feel better. Okay. Tom, are you back? There he is. All right, there you go.
All right. I'm so sorry for the confusion.
No worries.
So, welcome to the Silkworm 14 Rise Edition reading and book launch. Thank you for your poetry. This is the way it's going to work tonight. We're all going to read one of our poems from the book. I have a list of all the people who responded to me when I sent out the call for it. We're going to go down that list first. Then after that, I'm going to recognize all the people who are not on the list, and they can read their poem as well. That sound good? Give me a thumbs up. All good? Very good. Silkworm was started 14 years ago by my friend Carl and I. We've been very proud to publish mostly Western Mass poets, but poets from all over the world. And I appreciate all the work that people do on this. It was very difficult during this COVID time to make this happen. The advantage to the Zoom thing is that we can get people from all over the world. And that's great. I like that. But it's also a complication which involves technology, and all of us poets are not.
It was a bizarre fight for the Republican governor of Oklahoma to pick. That story also.
That's great.
I'm looking to see who's not muted.
So here are the ground rules. I'll read your bio from the book as your introduction. If you responded to this, you should have the email that says has the list, so you should know your place on the list and where you're going to come into play. Please have your poem ready, okay? And first poet that I have on my list, let me put my light on here. It's not too good, is it? Let me try another one. Stand by just a moment, please. Talk amongst yourselves. I find Zoom a frustrating experience myself. These meetings drive me out of my mind sometimes. I'm sorry. I apologize for my sort of my stuff here. Get situated here. All right. So please mute yourself when you're not reading. How's that sound? Good. The first poet I have on my list is Jane Johnson. And Jane was born during one war, married during another, got hearing aids after one baby, an MFA 2 days after the other. Published her first book, Maven Reaches Mars, during COVID. Next.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, everyone, for being here and dealing with the hassles of Zoom together. I haven't seen some of you for a long time because I find Zoom frustrating and difficult. But I'm reading a poem called Be Wild World. Bewilderedness be praised, raised when the black top cracks, the narrow stem buckles, hard-won pavement, and wee leaves sigh into the wild blue. Yon door, oh womankind, man kind of, like where would we be? We be, if some one-upping kind of, whoa man, whoa, tried to tidy up the worldliness. Yes, may the mess, always best, always be the way to make cracks in the asphalt lines, signs between lines. Amen. Awesome, as true, not but. Woohoo, men. Ah, me, ah, you, ah, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. It's a lovely poem. We're just going to keep going right down the list because this is we'll kind of keep it moving here. Next poet is my sort of partner in crime tonight, and has been my poetry partner for many years, is my great friend, Laurie Derosers. And Laurie's poetry books are The Philosopher's Daughter, Sometimes I Hear the Clock Speak, and Keeping Planes in the Air. Those are on salmon poetry, and 2 chapbooks, Inner Sky and Typing with E.E. Cummings on Glasslyre Press. So I'd like to, very proud to introduce my great friend and poet, Laurie Derosers.
I'm so glad I'm reading early. So this is a sort of a prose poem that I did. Day beach trip to Cape Cod, March 2021. A year of pandemic isolation got to both of us, so we drove to the beach to listen to the waves, their sucking noise, and the splash and whir of cormorants flying and diving. 2 red-tailed hawks flew over, landing on either branch of a utility pole, and when one flew off, the other got stranded in midair by the steady wind, which buoyed him up in place, then paused, and he flew over the building and back to the pole with his mate. We gathered rocks and shells. I found a smooth, flat gray stone from my pocket, or perhaps to skip on a quiet lake, and a round, speckled one to leave on my mother's grave in April, the 3rd anniversary of her death. You found a piece of white quartz to place in your fish tank. The ocean inhaled, we exhaled, stretched our gaze far over the blue, further than at home, where trees and houses block the long view. I took pictures and a video to keep nearby for when the lengthening indoor days get too long to bear once more.
And as you can see, you could follow right along in the book if you want and see the poem on the page as the person is reading it, and also watch them read it. Thank you so much, Laurie. It's beautiful. Our next poet is another fine Florence poet, and her name is Sharon Tracy. She's the author of Chroma, 5 Centuries of Women Artists on Shanty Arts, and What I Remember Most in Everything, all caps publishing. Her poems have appeared in the Banyan Review, Terrain.org, Swim, and elsewhere. Introducing Sharon Tracy.
Thank you, Tommy. It's great to see everyone. It's been a long time. I'm going to read my poem, Canterbury Farm, Thanksgiving Day, on page 41. Sunlight threads through cracks in the rafters. Barn cats lounge on bales of pistachio hay, eyes shining amber. My mother names them all Yet I forget. I never lived here with my mother. Today, the light is spacious enough to fill a cathedral. There's a congregation of chickens in the nave, feed bags in the transept, saddles in the apse. The choir smells sweet as grass and catnip. Far off, someone is singing. We linger. The light pours clear as holy water. Thank you.
Very beautiful, Sharon. Thank you so much. And I want to introduce our next poet. And I don't know why I'm not seeing that, but it's Eric Wazalewski. I believe that's the correct pronunciation.
Yeah.
Eric, are you here? You can take it.
There we go. So I'm reading from a poem called Shooting Star on page 19. It's from a longer collection, boot camp poems. Do not stand up or roll over during this live fucking fire exercise or you'll get your asses shot. Keep your heads down. In the concealing power of darkness, we high crawl to a fence while live gunfire raced overhead and live grenades burst all around. The objective was to back crawl under an impossibly low wire fence. The technique required us to roll onto our backs and wedge our rifle into place under the fence to create a small space. There was an endless supply of small arms fire. Rounds with tracers buzzed overhead and looked like a steady stream of shooting stars. Laying there in the mud, looking up, I could see the Milky Way in its brilliance. It shined as bright as a billion stars shine. When a real shooting star went shrieking far above, I wished people would not need to train in the infantry anymore, and I crawled under the impossible fence, only to rise and continue training.
Thank you, Eric. I failed to read his introduction, but I'll read it to you now. Eric is a veteran writer who worked with various veterans groups, including warrior writers. He's a father, veterans advocate, theologian, and more. Thank you, Eric. Our next poet is another Florence poet, and it's the wonderful and amazing Gerald Yell. Gerald's books include The Holyoke Diaries, Mark My Word, and The New World Order. His e-chapbook, Industries Built on Words, is available in Yavaneka Press. Gerald Yell.
Hey, thanks, Tom, and thanks, Lori, for all you guys do. This is page 22. It's called Home Sweet Homicide. We didn't know what was in the truck bed would come back to bite us, or where we had to take it would never let us leave, but it felt like such a long reach out the driver's side window to hug our wives and daughters that we didn't have time for such nonsense. When we set the truck in motion, we had the feeling we could whip the skin off a snake with a snap of the wrist. Actually, I could twist the head of a snake to loosen the flesh and pull the marbled meat off its thick, fat skin like it was nothing. We didn't get a chance to eat it, though. It rose from the dead like the slain cattle of Helios, and we had to get a ladder to pull it down. I don't have to tell you what a simple-minded fool's errand that turned out to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. And keeping it moving, our next poet is Howie Fairstein, another fine Florence poet. And Howie's newest book, Out of Order, Main Street Rag, a five-time Pushcart Prize nominee. He volunteers at the Center for New Americans, is poetry editor of Cutthroat, a journal of the arts, and lives in Florence, Mass. Welcome, Howie.
Whoops, thank you, Tommy. The cat was trying to get in. Okay. I'm going to read Protecting the Queen, which is on page 23, but I've shortened it. So it's a little bit of a revision. Protecting the Queen for Lee Andrews and the Hearts. Sang Teardrops. Dragged off trail by our dog, trampling hidden nest where drones guarded their queen and frenzied female worker bees stabbed feet and ankles through socks and sneakers. And as I fled through thorny scrub, windmilling and flailing, blue whales sounded, sand sharks and brown eels trolled forest floors, limpid waters, while tree frogs trilled above the murmur of 1,000 conspirators. Double vision, chimera, and though the stinging was hell, I imagined it heaven, delirious in pain, draped in pokeweed, as many times stars stuck in my teeth, as many times sparrows swooped the stunted woods, I'd the thought I'd never die. Racing toward sanctuary, an apparition, Melville's looking out at the rain, staring at Mount Greylock in his upstairs parlor, picturing Leviathan and singing his tears like crystals covering the window pane. Oh, if we could only start over again. Then from the phantasmagoria, a muttering arose. How good I was, followed by a scream. Good is not enough, fool. I hallucinated clock faces, a montage of suicides left on the pavement outside the dormitory, and the nun's nursery, and the priest's wedding bed, and the rabbi's pork, and the imam's liquor cabinet. When finally nearing my home, whiplashed and gun-shy, illusion intensified. Victorious queen, flanked by bishops, castles, and knights, led a procession down Mulberry Street's honeycombed black and white squares. Living is what Herman clung to, the hive's survival, what workers exist for. Honeybees gleaning nectar in the gathering storm. Teardrops, teardrops, teardrops. Thank you.
Awesome, Howie, as always. Now, I got a problem. I got a minor medical issue that makes me want to go pee every few minutes here. So I have to go do that. Women would know what I'm talking about. This is a more common woman's problem than it is a men's, but men get it too. This is one of the reasons I'm grouchier tonight than usual.
Does somebody else have the list?
I got the list.
No, I'm
going to read the introduction for Linda.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
And then we're going to keep on moving, okay?
Okay.
If I'm not back and someone has the list, they can introduce the next poet, Jim Armenti, okay?
Okay.
Our next poet is Linda Waldeka. And Linda Waldeka, at the end of the alphabet here, pretty much. I had it. Where is it? Linda Waldeka lives in Cheshire, Mass. Is a retired educator. She has 3 chapbooks published and is composing a full-length poetry collection titled Yet to Be Imagined. Introducing Linda Waldeka.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Glad the book's finally published. So the name of the book is Drive. The name of the poem is Drive. It is always this way whenever I drive this stretch of road. Hawk, deer, a rafter of turkey greet me. In summer's drought, dust kicks up behind car. In fall, deciduous canopy, vivid brilliance leaves me in a stupor as airborne leaves flow aimlessly. In winter, it can be traversed by snowshoes, cross-country skis, snowmobiles. A poet once said, sled dogs, Linda, sled dogs. I Google Malamute, stare into the eyes of a canine, revered for strength and resistance to cold, taxi for the snowbound. Spring is always dicey, dirt shoulder, sucks tire in, phantom mud slick. The road meanders upward like a ski slope. As I ascend, my eyes peer over the rise. An overlook, notification that you have arrived, begs you stay and soak up a valley's contents. Roads, rivers, lakes, rooftops, chimneys, vehicles, houses, windmills, schools, churches, cell towers, parking lots, meadows, farms, fields, forests, entities, a living testament to the humans who've laid the bricks, sawed the boards, erected the walls, roof. If it were not for the ingenuity of those who rise to the occasion, I could not point out my house's white roof, looming in the shadow of Mount Greylock, Massachusetts, a mountain donning a 93-foot Veterans War Memorial that takes on the likeness of a lighthouse placed in the only 1,200 acre taiga boreal forest in my state. I breathe deeply, aromatic scents, pines, mountain laurel. As I release the brake, descend, a deer stands motionless. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. It's great. Yes, I'm back. Didn't take too long. Linda's another great Florence poet too. So, and we have such a great group together, and it's nice to have other people read for us. And one of them is my friend Jim Armenti, and Jim is more probably known as a musician, but he is a songwriter, musician, teacher in the Northampton, Mass area. Has been writing poems for friends his whole life. But recently, as part of a collaboration with painter Katie Schneider, I'd like to introduce you to Jim Armenti.
Hello, thank you for letting me read. This is called The Car Trip. 1956, driving from Ypsilanti to Maplewood in a car that I can't remember, but I know it was a Ford station wagon, a hardy vehicle to make the 600-mile trip across the fat parts of Ohio and Pennsylvania. There would be 3 of us then, and on one of these trips, we learned to sing harmony to the old songs my dad would teach us. And I don't know that he explained that, or we just sang along until it came out, because now that I recollect, I can't recall him ever singing harmony, or my mother, or my sisters. So maybe it was just me who wanted to stand out, or whatever other urge there was to bring the wrong but suitable melody to the new song. Oh, the deacon went down to the river to pray. He found some beer and he stayed all day. Maybe it was the repeated phrases, the call and response. It just wants you to break out and grow. Oh, if you die, before I do, just dig a hole, and pull me through. That's a comforting thing for a 4-year-old, and one of the many things my parents taught somehow apart from their own beliefs and experience, like eating salad and playing in the woods, sleeping on the ground and waking up, soaking wet in Iowa, but getting right to it, folding, packing, drying, just do the work, back in the car singing, just dig a hole and pull me through.
Thank you, Jim. That was wonderfully read and a very, very lovely piece of work. Thank you so much. Our next poet is Mary Folk. And let's find Mary. Mary Folk has been published in Newscatcher, Cathesis Northwest Press, and Paulette Poetry, among other publications. A graduate of the MFA program at VCFA, Mary lives in Amherst, Mass, with her family. Please welcome Mary Folk.
Thank you so much, Tommy. And thank you all. This is such a stunning collection, and I'm so honored to be among you in these pages. I'm going to read a poem called Two Measures of Tenderness on page 38, and this is for my father. And I recall his hands, 2 measures of tenderness he laid against my face, from The Gift by Lee Young Lee. He watched me closely, checked my fever, wiped sweat from my forehead. I hardly felt his touch. Although a child, I was struck by his gesture. This affection rarely revealed to my mother, who most needed it, or my brothers, who also were denied. Love for boys was a firm handshake, a firmer slap on the back. I was his only daughter, the only girl for generations, a novelty for this tentative fatherhood. My silly good morning and good night kisses, a sing-song greeting each day at the waiting door. I was his shadow, his reflection, a dismantling of inherited reserve. How I loved the way he uttered my name, a different inflection from those for my brothers, a softer tone, an intimate hush, his soothing assurances. I recall these now in my newborn's room as my cheek brushes his in the curtained midnight, taking in the rise and fall of our shared breath. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. That was a beautiful poem. All right. Next up is my friend Gary Meetrus. And of course, he is Poet Laureate of East Hampton. So please welcome Gary Meetrus. His newest book of poetry is River Voice 2 on Adastra Press, which is his press. He lives in East Hampton, Mass, where in April 2018, he was appointed the inaugural poet for East Hampton. Gary Meetrus.
Thank you, Tommy and Laurie and everyone. It's good to see you all. My poem's on page 44. It's called In Winter Dark. And the poem was inspired by a photograph by Kathy Fighting Kevin Valancourt. And Kathy is my niece, my sister's daughter. And the photograph was taken up in Alaska. In winter dark. In winter dark, we only feel the weight of snow and the cold, cold toes under bed covers. We hear the coyotes cry like glass shattering and know the barren field where Queen Anne's lace grew. In winter dark, we forget things. Song of the chickadee, sun glow at dusk, the sudden smile of someone you love. When the full moon rises, the bare branches heavy with ice sparkle and become a dance of light reflected in the heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Great piece. Our next poet coming up is Mary Messick. Mary is a poet and printmaker in Western Massachusetts. Her poems have appeared in The Poet, Plum Creek Review, Lips, Patterson Literary Review, and Silkworm. She has exhibited prints in Hartford, Boston, Phoenix, and New York. Welcome, Mary Messick.
Thank you. My poem is found on page 45. Spiked Virus Diary number 10, April 18th, 2020. Spring snows are always wet and pretty, piling thick and slushy on budded branches. Azaleas, forsythia, new shoots, new leaves. The temperature hovers at 34 degrees, just cold enough to haul us backward to December and the idealized beauties of sleigh bells, wreaths, and lighted trees. Last December, the virus was, we thought, confined to Wuhan, China. Thousands of international workers fled. Then news of it spreading to cruise ships, Italy, Washington State, New York City. Like the Black Death that traveled by ship from one port to another, COVID-19 has covered the globe by transports of our day. People cough on ships, airplanes, trains, cars, on buses. In 4 months, it's infected 2 million plus. The death toll rises every day. Scientists, like prophets of old, warned, "We've seen this before. An epidemic will come. Prepare." Leaders failed to heed. They couldn't see. The president did not believe spiked microbes far away'd invade our shores. The daily death toll soars, city by city, state by state. Most of us stay home now waiting. Essential workers go to their jobs. Some fall ill, some die. The economy crumbles. 22 million have lost jobs. Bread lines stretch for miles. And as we wait this day in mid-April, the snow continues its downward fall. Each flake a virus made visible, airborne and blanketing us all.
Thank you, Mary. Powerful stuff.
Thank you.
Our next poet is Jean Blakeman, and Jean Blakeman is a lovely person and a Florence Poet member, and she's a writer, an editor, and a knitter. During the pandemic, she learned how to ski. She lives in Williamsburg. Jean Blakeman.
All right, thank you, Tommy. Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here. And thank you all for your wonderful poems and for this wonderful book. It's just really beautiful all the way through. My poem is on page 49, and it's called At the VA. I backed the car into a parking spot in front of the patient entrance across from the chapel, so I can see my husband when he emerges from having blood drawn. It is quiet, but for the birds, and it is still cool, just 9:32 in the morning, mid-June. I reposition a bobby pin in my hair. Another Vietnam vet and his wife come out wearing masks. She carries a fat book from the library. They climb into their car, sanitize their hands. Now it will always be like this. Today, the sun bright and sharp. As we drive down the quiet campus, swing past the recreation department, keep to the small signs and one-way lanes, reach the checkpoint of orange cones, navigate the exit.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
And our next poet is C. Desiree Finley. And she is a poet, artist, and fiction writer living in Western Massachusetts. Finley is active in the local writing community and values having a mountain in her backyard. Finley.
Good to join you tonight. I just go by Finn, so my poem is on page 60 and I'm privileged to be among you. The title is Things I Admire, Even in Some Vague Way. I admire dogs, muzzles like waistcoats, dapper profiles, unashamed to be silly, sticking their wide noses in each other's rumps, piles of leaves on the side of the road, their earnestness, their truth. Can they ever lie or betray? They love fully, unafraid, the way I'd love too if I had a chance to love again. I admire the ladybug, so fervently optimistic, arriving from who knows where in winter, seemingly living on air in the bathroom, around the sink like a campfire, along the wide kitchen window. I carry you to the grapefruit tree, hoping you'll eat the aphids, but you're the Pac-Man of bugs traveling hither and yon in between the windows, unperturbed by time or limitations. I love bears, although I am afraid of them. The idea of bear is more what I love. Furry, strong, independent, sleeping winter away. It makes sense waking to find a chilly spring. Foraging, I've never seen you except in film. No bears, walking up to say hello, telling me their dreams. Although I'd be okay with that. I could hold bear dreams, put them in soup and paint them into stories, and each night wave into the darkness thinking, there must be bears out there somewhere.
Thank you, Finn. I love that poem. It's beautiful. I do. I really love it. I just, bears, dogs, whatever. It's great. Our next poet is another Florence poet, and it's Stephanie Shafran, and she's a wonderful poet, and I'm going to have you check her stuff out here. Stephanie Shafran writes poetry and prose. Her chapbook, Awakening, was published in April 2020, just as COVID-19 virus made its unwelcome debut in Western Massachusetts.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you, Lori, and everybody. I'm so grateful to be here with you. My poem, which is found on page 65, is a tribute to Daisy Matthias, and it's called Remembering Daisy. In my living room, the perky sun pairs the blue of Daisy's paisley scarf with her azure eyes as she reads the sonnet she's just written. Early spring, we gather on her screened porch. Outside, birds nibble at the backyard feeder. Inside, we munch on cashews and green grapes. In June, soon after my cat Cleo was euthanized, Daisy telephones. That afternoon, she had listened to my anguished writing, my careless error, guilty remorse. Want to call the cat whisperer and see how Cleo's doing on the other side? In November, while touching her abdomen, she quietly mentions the urologist thinks it's a kidney stone and recommends I drink more fluids. Over the Christmas holidays, Daisy and her husband meet with a Boston oncologist. The doctor delivers the news, advanced cancer of the kidney, the clinical odds, 6 to 12 months. In February, she calls me. I won't be at Back Porch Writers for a while. Come visit me at home. Standing at her glass pane door, I'm shocked as Daisy makes her way across the kitchen. I note her sunken cheeks, her flickering eyes. Gingerly, I reach around her bony shoulders, blathering niceties to fill the silence. In the living room, Daisy returns to the sofa and pulls a hand-crocheted afghan up to her chin. On a small table by her side, a few pills wait on a white saucer. 2 apple slices rest on a lime green dish. As she murmurs the negligible odds of surviving another 5 months, Daisy's brave blue eyes widen. I'm at peace and curious to discover what awaits me.
Nice. One can never go wrong with a good cat poem. It's really beautiful.
Nice.
Thank you, Steph.
Thank you.
Very heartfelt. Our next poet needs no introduction because he's me. Thomas Clark, AKA Tommy Twilight, is co-founder and director of the Florence Poets Society, executive editor of Silkworm, and host of the Twilight Poetry Pub on WXOJ Valley Free Radio. My poem is on page 76. It's called Tijan's Grave. Barbed wire, dream catcher. I placed a leaf inside. Or maybe the leaf was already there where it had fallen. Or maybe someone else had put it there and I just took the picture. Not brightly fall colors, but brown beginning to curl. Little gifts, like folded hands and white gloves, pinned to the stone. Like somehow He knows you are familiar here. Thank you for listening to my poem. Our next poet is Bruce Brooks. I mean, said Bruce, sorry. Bruce Bynum. Wonderful poet, Bruce is. Amazing stuff that he writes. And he appeared on my radio show a couple of weeks ago. And it was great to see him there and to talk with him. And we had a wonderful discussion about all manner of things. And I hope he'll come back on the show again. And it's an open invitation to anyone who would like to be on the radio show, share their poems or their books that they're going to be doing, and talk about poetry or whatever. So keep that in mind, all you poets out there. Edward Bruce Bynum is a licensed psychologist in Hadley, Mass, and author of several books on psychology, including Dark Light Consciousness and The Dream Life of Families, and poetry including The First Bird and the Magdalena Poems. E. Bruce Brooks. E. Bruce Bynum. Why am I saying that? Sorry. Bruce, are you out there?
You hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. I feel good company, good company, good company. And my poem is on page 77. And it's called Death Always Drives the Biggest Car in Town. Death always drives the biggest car in town. Knows everybody in the cemetery, like they used to go fishing together. I have a special connection with Death. Remember him like the hitchhiker I keep passing on the road. We worked side by side one year in the factory, Death and I. He got to fuck all the pretty girls, promising them nothing but orgasms and darkness and the sweetest lemonade any child could ever drink. Death gave me a pocket knife once with lots of blades and other things folded up inside, like the mirror that remembers everything that has ever stood in front of it. Death helped me to meditate. You'll be on prayer on many days. I never stopped being grateful to Death or bringing it flowers when anyone passed away. 1,000 years ago, when I was walking through the mountains, I came upon Death sitting on a rock, kissing the knees of poetry. We both were startled. Neither one of us could explain. And then, just like that, a swan appeared and Death just faded away. In my long afternoons by the lake in late summer, I recall the whole thing again and again, how Death had no shoes and a bottomless appetite.
Wow. Yeah. So good. So good. Thank you, Bruce. I loved it.
Yeah.
All right. So our next poet is Elizabeth Wolfe. And she won the 2018 Rattle Chapbook Contest. I entered that. I didn't win. Her poetry appears in Boston Literary Magazine, Ibison Street, Peregrine, and Persian Sugar in English Tea, in English and Farsi. Welcome, Elizabeth Wolfe.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for reading tonight. I got my book last week and I didn't start it yet because I wanted to read it after I'd heard everybody's poem in their own voices. I'm going to read Practicing Tashlik, which is on page 79. It's a linked Haibun. 1. River mud makes me happy. In the summer of COVID, I take frequent walks with the dog. I look for trails where we can wade into rivers or streams, moving water without the green algae bloom, where I see fish, frogs leaping, freshwater clams. The summer our house burned down, I took my toddler daughter and dog to a canoe takeout on a riverbed behind a farmer's cornfield. The dog fetched sticks over and over. My daughter made piles of mud topped with stones we called Yodel the turtle. She chose a stick or a rock or a clamshell and told it stories. My house was on fire, she said. The smoke made everything yucky and my toys are all gone. Wake from passing boats toppled her tower. Cute little white girls looked to police as helpers to keep us all safe. 2. After we split up, my husband flamed out. Rehab released rage long buried, numbed by substances. At night before bed, my daughter insisted I walk through the house to check all the doors and windows were locked. He must have threatened to get me in my sleep, I joked to a friend. Maybe, she replied, but write it all down. A change in behavior is evidence of trauma. I tracked every missed call, every missed visit, every red-hot email that made it through the firewall. My daughter disclosed therapists instead of muddy sticks. Her dad said he would kill me. Her dad said he would kidnap her, cut her hair, change her name. I went to court with bulging files seeking orders of protection. My daughter did not testify. I did. Cross-examination was like crawling naked through a minefield laid by an ex-lover in public, questions and objections hurled like incoming grenades. After each battle, I took my daughter to the ocean at sunset, fiery orange hues spreading over waves. Evidence is stored in many different forms: tears, nightmares, long bones. 3. This year, my daughter turned 21. She took an extra job, moved to a bigger apartment, covered a hole behind the stove with tinfoil to deter bats. The foil blocks their sonar, she tells me, so the bats can't tell the wall is compromised. Her red hair is streaked with blue. She worries about everyone's safety, swaps masks to match her outfits, socializes solely within a small pod. It is the summer of COVID. Her father has completed a jail sentence and several stints of rehab. My daughter and I spend a few days away climbing rocks on a secluded state beach. We take turns telling stories. I listen. I learn things. She can legally order drinks, prefers them sweet, layered with chocolate liqueurs. We laugh. Heading back to the hotel, we skip rocks across the water, casting off our cares. On the fertile banks of a broad, sturdy river, mud leaches trauma. Thank you.
Thank you. Rattle Chapbook Prize winner. Cool. That's pretty cool.
Hey, keep entering, keep trying.
Yeah, I'll keep trying, maybe. You never know, right? You gotta play to win. You gotta play to win. Our next poet is another Florence poet, is Susan Middleton. She writes science books and writes poetry, fiction, and nonfiction. She is co-founder of Slate Roof Press, which in 2007 published her chapbook, Seed Case of the Heart. Susan Middleton.
Thank you, Tommy. I'm going to read At the Lake, which is on pages 81 and 82. Hold a flat stone against your cheek. Let the wild waters that tumbled it smooth cool your skin with the fleece of ancient memory. Wait for the stone to whisper its name, then cradle it between thumb and two curled fingers. Utter syllables for someone in need of good fortune. Open your throwing arm wide, a wing unfurling, and flick the stone sideways. If pleased with your devotion, this sliver of flint will skip for you, a bounding alewife moving in effortless balance between purpose and play. Count the number of arcs, not in contest with your previous throw, but to keep stone and vision aligned as they skim over the skin of the world between wet and dry, sky and water, known and unknown. Watch the stone slow and sink, back to the anonymity you rescued it from. Be content to lose it, knowing it will sleep at the bottom of the lake till geology carries it to shore once more, long after you're gone. Marvel now at this lightness of being which fills your body, the stones, the afternoon. Let your next throw pay it forward to stone skippers you'll never meet.
Thank you, Susan. Beautiful work. And our next poet is Joanna Whitney. She lives in Greenfield, Mass. And she ran a creative writing workshop at the Greenfield Public Library for many years and has published poetry in local presses. Welcome, Joanna Whitney.
Thank you. The Goddess of Monday. I am drinking coffee and wondering, Monday is such a mystery. How did it happen that the weekend came, then went, leaving so much unfinished in its wake, like the tide line on a beach, marked by the tangles of kelp and fishing line? I am considering the rise and fall of morning, the red light of daybreak, stuck in the webs from last night, dreams lining the edge of what to do with time, with dust, with the weight of desire measured against the urgent must of spinning today from the twist of yesterday's story. I'm considering options, how and when to start, what to start. Another mystery. Should I make a list? Should I call it the list of mysteries? Now that I have found a pen and an empty page begging for words. I am drinking another cup of coffee while facing the wonder of Monday, the expanse of time and things, a floor to sweep, a bed to make, though not from scratch, and other chores. Who put all these dishes here in my sink? I am considering change and stasis. Monday calls for balance. Common and rare words to make order of jumble. The leaf pile and the laundry much the same. My back turned, attending other thoughts, sweeping the dust, leaving the cobwebs as they are. I am drinking coffee and wondering, Monday is such a mystery. Who wrote this list? These things? What could be done to start the work of order out of chaos? The backyard, the bed linen, the unmatched socks, the tangle of lifelines. I am considering where to start. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. So I used to see her posts on Facebook. She would, when you were doing the 30 poems and things like, yes, it's lovely. And many of us do that. And we are a great supporter of the Center for New Americans and the work that they do. And many Florence poets and friends have participated in that thing. And I guess last night was the reading. I couldn't make it. My little medical thing going on, but I understand it was a good thing and a great reading, and they raised a ton of dough for the Center for New Americans. So thumbs up to that. All right, the next poet on my list is, I believe, a fellow Beat Poet Laureate that I am also. I'm Beat Poet Laureate of Massachusetts. Several other of the people today. Well, at least Lori was a Beat Poet, I think. Beat Poet Laureate of United States or Massachusetts?
U.S.
U.S.
Yeah, nobody told
Pretty
me,
awesome.
but-
Pretty awesome. But John Wesick. John Wesick is a regional editor of the San Diego Poetry Annual. He's published hundreds of poems and stories in journals such as the Atlanta Review, Berkeley Fiction Review, Metal Scratches, Pearl, and Slipstream. And he also sends me a postcard thanking me when I publish his poem. That's a remember that. Thank you, John. John Wesick.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, I'm not a beat poet laureate. I'm maybe just a beat poet camp follower or something like that. Yeah, I have a couple new books out. I'll put some links in the chat. Anyway, look, thanks very much for including my poem in this wonderful anthology. It's a poem about retirement, and it's somewhere around page 95. It's called Check the Box. With each pencil stroke, my wooden desk wobbles, its uneven legs beating beige linoleum. My eyes strain at logarithm tables, no calculators allowed. I've watched 60 gold and green summers from this cinder block room while I marked A, B, C, or D in number 2 pencil, chasing that elusive passing grade. The proctor wears a hanging judge's robe, part of the get tough policy that didn't stop Connor Rich plagiarizing. The old-timer's been here longer than me. Leaning on his cane, he limps to the front. D+, sheriff, take him away. If he's lucky, he'll get prison. If not, a cold December sidewalk for a bed. I sign my name, carry my answer sheet to the front. B-, you're free to go. The proctor rips up my sheet and drops it in the trash. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, John. And that's great. Not for the first time I screwed up. It's gonna happen again, so. But I skipped over one of my great friends and Florence Poets member, Nita Gallers. And I skipped over her on the list. I don't know, I just checked it too quickly, that's all. Florence Poets Society member Anita Gallers lives and writes in Northampton, Mass. She hates writing bios, partly because her full nerdery cannot possibly be contained in one, but mainly because they sound pretentious. See?
I stand by that.
I'm sure you would.
Yeah, I totally stand by that. I'm going to read my poem in a second, which is on page 91, but I do want to shout out first the editorial team that made this book happen. So thank you all, everyone who worked on this, Tommy and Lori, but also Anna, Marianne, Sharon, Linda, and Jerry, most of whom are here, I think. True? Yeah.
Yes, pretty much.
Thank you all. You are the best. All right, so my poem, as I said, page 91, it's called A Poem is a Cookie. My favorite cookie is a black and white, but this poem is not a black and white cookie, which is more of a cake anyway. This poem is more like Mandelbrot. That's like Yiddish biscotti, but without the pretense that it's anything fancy. Anyway, I'm just saying you might want some coffee with it, or maybe a glace latte. It's hard and only a little bit sweet. Just the right amount of sweet if you ask me, which you didn't. But I'm telling you, it dunks well. I guess it's not for everyone. If you don't like it, I've got something else. Don't break your teeth on it, darling.
Love it. Very cool. Thank you, Anita. Our next poet, and I'm going to take a shot at her name, Tara Ikabuchi. That's what it sounds like. Tara Ikabuchi is a poet and mother of 3 living in the Boston area. She teaches English and writing at a high school. Her poetry has recently appeared in Mothers Always Write and the Bangalore. Tara.
All right. Thanks, Tommy. You're Yakabuchi.
Yakabuchi. I was
got it. Yeah, you were very close.
okay.
So my poem is on page 96 and it's called The Gray Lady. There's a little epigraph that says, sailors named Nantucket the Gray Lady of the Sea because of fog that swept in quickly. So this is a tribute to Nantucket and also two of my very close friends, and we call ourselves the Gray Ladies. 3 women with strands of gray wobble on the beach, childless for a day. So they sashay out to sea, seaweed-wrapped goddesses, curtsying to squawking gulls, wondering if glamour means having it all. They talk of marriage and how romance looks different now. No longer sun bright, hot as oil, but more fog gray, wispy, heat stripped, like when their husbands offered this quiet, void of gifts. So their only job is raising arms to shield eyes from a too bright sun. If they squint, the women can see sky simmering with fog, color of love settling. Not dull, but warm, like walkway stones welcoming you home. Love as leftover smoke, tamped down like pulpy waves or a small pivoting wind.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you. Now, this is one of the great parts about the Zoom thing, is that we can hear the poem in the poet's voice, even though we're far away. That is like, it's great. And so happy that you sent us a poem and so happy that we can see you and hear you read it. It's wonderful. Our next poet is David Ferland. And David Furlin writes poetry and fiction in East Hampton, Mass. He teaches orientation and mobility to people who are blind and wanders all over the Pioneer Valley and beyond. David Furlin.
Thanks, Tommy. Hello, everybody. Great to be with you all tonight. My poem is on page 102. Heading out, coming home. Reflected Connecticut girder span, Rivertown shadows, 50 shades of brick, crumpled folks like rags in a milk crate. Perched on Vermont hillsides, cows all face the same way like an old anti-commie billboard. Look for them among us. We liked it blunt and obvious. Lean-to in the mountains, mice on the beams. Young engineers eat from pouches, talk aeronautics. I ask about the lunar colonies we were promised. Back home, pine straw carpet after autumn windstorm. Needles stick up in the grass like golden hair between buzz and comb length before being flattened by mist and time.
Thank you, David. Great stuff. I'm loving this, meeting new poets and hearing their work. It's new poets to me. This is one of the reasons we do this. The reason that Carl Russo and I started this years ago, so we could connect with other people who do the same thing. It's not like there's any money in it, because there's not. But that's what the little pocket in your jeans is for, is the money you make from poetry. So, our next poet is Don Fisher. And I got to preface this with one of Don's poems. We had a lot of struggle with Silkworm this year with, different formatting issues or different things. Things were jumping around on us. And, one of Don's poems, he sent it to me, or sent it to us. And I opened the attachment and I said, okay, we published it just the way it was. And he says, no, this is how it looked. This is how it is. And then I downloaded the attachment and opened it, and it was different. So I don't know if he's going to read that one tonight, because I think he's got 2 in here.
I am.
Don Fisher.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tommy. Thank you, everyone.
My poem is Shadow Dancing, and it's on page 120. Shadow dancing. I wake up early, go for a stroll, stars, street lights on either side of me. My shadow stretches, shrinks, circles around me, spins, dips. Stars, street lights, everyone in their dreams applaud. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Proud stuff. And thank you for giving me the whole picture on that one. Michael Favala Goldman is a Danish translator and a jazz clarinetist. His poetry collections are Who Has Time for That? And Small Sovereign. He lives in Massachusetts. Yes, he does. And he is a great friend of mine, and he's achieved quite a bit of success with the Danish translations of wonderful books. So if you want to learn some things about Danish literature, he has picked some of the creme de la creme and translated into English so we Americans can digest it. Michael Favala Goldman.
Thanks a lot, Tommy. Great to be here with everyone tonight. My poem is on page 107. This may sound familiar. So I'm in the middle of a story and the female character says, I'm not feeling seen right now. And the other characters are just eyeing each other or the ground. I guess they're checking on a scale of 1 to 10 how much they care. I mean, do they care about the connection enough to make it work? Because it ain't gonna rebuild itself. And for most of them, then it's back to the story. There's no time for this. But one male character, he's in for a real beating. He opens his mouth and actually apologizes, but not convincingly. Though it is an opening where he and the woman hijack the entire plot. The action drains into one long simmering arc of tension, which might never be resolved. And maybe that's the best thing that could have happened. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. As always, great stuff and continued success with your translations and your poetry. Our next poet is Carmi Soffer, I think. And she lives in Susquamish, Washington, where she can see Mount Rainier from her mailbox. Her poems have recently appeared in Slant, Cirque, Poetry South, and Door is Ajar. Carmi.
Oh, she was here. Carmi, maybe you're muted. Yeah.
That should work. Sorry.
Yay!
I just was thanking you all for your good work, and I'm including editors and everybody who did everything, but it's also especially wonderful because I'm from Massachusetts, and until this COVID, I got back every year and have spent a lot of time and a lot of love there. So thanks for that. This poem's called I'm in Love. I'm in love with the folk singing stranger. He mocks me. He neglects to appear. He appears as a woman. She disappears. My eyes on the ladies' room. He speaks only Spanish. I undress. I am alone. I don't need this kind of music. He comes back to say it's snowing. I drink beer and listen to the band. Later, I think of bodies instead of footsteps in the all-night snow in Cambridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmi. And you have fans here. They were sending me emails wanting to know how they could see the performance. And I hope the whole Facebook thing is going well. It seems to be. It seems to be fine. I'm glad. And here we go. Our next person is from the farthest one we've got this year. And we often get poets from international poets, and sometimes they're able to be on our thing, and I hope she's here. She said she was gonna be. I think she can be. I couldn't look at all the pictures. And it's Cherie Vertec Ellis. Cherie.
Hi. Can you hear me? Hello, everyone. What a great honor. I received it in the mail the other day, and I've been reading it, and it's absolutely amazing. I love all of your poems, and I've loved listening to you all today. Yeah, it's around lunchtime here in Adelaide, South Australia. I'm on Ghana country, and here is my poem. It's called Now is the Time. For the fallen, dead broke, heart hurt, hard-working mice, we will rise. The beaten, spirit-torn, paranoid, searching wolves, we will rise. The provoked, ridiculed, spoken down to dogs, we will rise. It's because we survive. Our animal instincts shine, claws sharp, legs stretched, hairs stand on end, spine straightens, anger rises in strong minds. We rise. No poisoned bodies losing fight. Our inner strength and fired breath relics will rise. The humans, the souls of righteous heroes, are here. No more begging for equity and justice. We have risen. Watch out. Be warned, self-entitled sociopaths, ego-twisted bodies in expensive suits, users, abusers, clown-faced leaders, elite minions of evil forces, watch out. We are coming for you. Thank you. I wrote that during the COVID pandemic, so I was a bit angry.
Wonderful. And it's so wonderful to hear it in your voice in Australian English, I guess I would call it. And it's funny that my wife and I are watching this Australian show on TV right now. We're really, it's like a nice, gentle show called, it's a family show, like called Back to the Rafters. Pretty cool.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
They've just done a reboot. I think it's about 15 years later. Yeah, they will come back.
Very cool. All right, so there we go. So our next poet is Barbara Ann Lemoyne, and find her bio here momentarily. Barbara Ann Lemoyne is a pushcart nominee, placed second in the Beals Prize for Poetry, and second and third in the Poet's Seat Poetry Contest. Her poems have been published in Equinox and Silkworm. Welcome, Barbara Lemoyne.
Thank you all. I've enjoyed reading and hearing all of your work tonight. And my poem is on page 114. Cusp of April. March winds blow into the next new month. Promises of change, always movement. April can be lover, snowstorm, jonquils greening from cold earth. The fourth month when you were born, died. Month of tears wept in joy, grief, ecstasy of life. Hands reaching into dirt, into sunlight, cleansing air. grave of winter filled. Pay attention to the slope of light, how it moves earlier and later through these days. Wind circling the canopy of pines, turkey vultures wheeling, searching, and us on the ground, lusting for feathers to fly the curvature of the earth. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. And you mentioned jonquils in the poem, and it made me think of the famous Western Mass weatherman, John Quill. And
yeah.
somebody, I don't know why, but of course it did. And that was he was quite the weatherman, but that's beside the point. Just to lighten the mood a little. If you've seen him, you know him. Going back years ago.
I remember him, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, who's next here? Carla Cook. Carla Cook. And Carla Cook writes in various genres, usually accompanied by her phenomenal writing sisters. A longtime journal keeper and compulsive proofreader, she provides little editing services, and a fresh eye for other writers. Welcome, Carla Cook.
Good evening. I am honored to be among this fine group of writers, and many thanks to the Florence Poets Society and to everyone who made this collection a reality. This poem about spring is on page 116. A joyfulness. There is a joyfulness as we watch for leaves to appear. At first, they are not there, not there, not there. Then overnight, there they are, filling the horizon with a soft multitude of greens. There is a joyfulness in the blush of Acer rubrum flowers rising against the azure sky. They fall, and we step onto a spring carpet of tarnished crimson blossoms. There is a joyfulness when we again look up, surprised to see tiny clenched buds relax into gentle greenness, magically filling the winter barren canopy. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. I don't know, you look very familiar to me. Are you local to this Northampton area?
Yes, yes.
So maybe I've seen you around town somewhere.
You have. I came to the Florence Society once.
Oh, there you go. That's probably where I recognize you from. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Peace. Our next poet is another Florence Poets Society member. It's Jan Lamberg. And let me find her bio here.
Sure.
Jan Lamberg celebrates the return of spring in 2021, and she mourns with those who've suffered losses in 2020. Jan Lamberg.
Hello. If we were in person, I would pass to everyone who stayed to the very end at least a clementine. So here's a virtual clementine for everybody. And we can't do this poem until 6 months from now, but if you get up early, try it, it works. Sleeping in, page 118. Sleeping in. Evening showers have set nature's water clock ticking. A heavy dew snakes through soaked lawns, and bird baths spill, float worms, every leaf, blade, root imbibing snippets of song. Guess I'm done for now. And yet, bless that first robin, my favorite tuning fork. Bless the catbird, his black toupee thrown at marauder jay. Bless the Carolina wren whipping latecomers into frenzy. Bless the American redstarts, the whole family, tiny sopranos. Bless the cardinal, a wood frog ignited by dawn. Bless the house wren for her non-stop shushing. By 5:30, she will take back her house from the house sparrow. Soon the whole dawn chorus at intermission, all scattered, pecking, preening, silenced at the stroke of noon. Sun rising, I too will find my legs, shower, gargle, and sing.
Love.
Thank you, Jan.
Let's hear it for the birds.
Let's hear it for the birds. Of course, you and Howie are wonderful bird people, I think. Okay, so I got 2 more people on the list, and then we're going to open it up to other people who are not on the list who want to read. And in order to do that, I'll try and look at the gallery, and you can raise your hand, and I'll go along the thing, okay, as best as I can. So our next poet is another Florence poet, and it's she's done a lot of work with the Florence Poets Society, and I very much love her poetry. Mary Ellen Shawn lives in Amherst, Mass. with her beagle Zeke. Poetry has appeared in numerous journals. Her first poetry collection, Homegrown, is available on Amazon. Mary Ellen Shawn.
Are you muted, Mary Ellen?
I am. I'm sorry. I thank Tommy for accommodating an old lady who didn't pay attention to the email on Monday. I'm happy to be here. And I'm reading the second poem, which is Marching in Formation on page 94. Marching in Formation. There were at least 60 band members on the field, marching, moving into formation during halftime of the homecoming football game. In this photo, members were playing instruments as they marched, feathered plumes atop their caps blowing in the autumn breeze. I found it hard to tell one person from another until a coworker pointed out that one right foot was extended forward while 59 were firmly planted on the ground. Out of step, one of 60. I glanced across the table at our esteemed group leader. People had called her out of step and worse for years. And yet here she is, about to receive an award for being the most innovative thinker of the company, an award for thinking outside the box, for being out of step. All those years ago, band formations were just drills for what lay ahead. Practice in listening to her own commands. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. All right. I'm sorry if my feathers got fluffed with the thing there, with all that stuff. Frustration with working with this kind of stuff, but everything seems, knock on wood, I'm not going to say it. Everything seems.
We are on my Facebook page.
Yes.
I know that because
Yes.
I've had some feedback from it. So.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And the last person on my list is Eileen Kennedy. And Eileen Kennedy is another Florence poet, and let me introduce her. Eileen Kennedy, Banshees, Flutter Press, was nominated for a pushcart and won second prize from the Word Right Book Award in poetry. Touch My Head Softly, Finishing Line 2021, was recently published. Eileen Kennedy.
Thank you, Tommy. I wanted to acknowledge the beautiful cover. Margaret at Arridge. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but quite beautiful. And I don't think anyone else mentioned it. I have two poems, and one is mercifully short. And I think I'm reader number 32. I'm going to do a short one. Here it is. The boat at twilight. End of day. Oh, by the way, it's page 40. The boat at twilight. End of day, sun escaping, red to violet drips on the bay's mirror. Only the strongest hunger would force a flounder up through these depths. The fish, water spirits. The pole, an unanswered prayer. Blind trawling, my father called it, head backlit. Almost dark, we hit the shore. No dinner for my mother. Wildflowers in my paw. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Eileen. And I always love a poem that says Twilight because it speaks to me. All right. We're going to go to the, I'm going to go to a different view so I can see more or less all of you. I'm going to have you raise your hand if you want to read and you haven't read, because you're not on my list. Okay? Let me go to the gallery version here. All right, I'm looking. I see Sasha Berman. Let's go with Sasha Berman. And let me do her introduction here. Hold on. I'm sorry, pages are done together. Sasha Berman of Northampton, Mass. has been a textile designer, decorator, and treasure merchant via her Gypsy Heart Boutique. She writes fiction and poetry, has been published in the Daily Hampshire Gazette and Silkworm. Welcome, Sasha Berman. Unmute. Sasha, I think you have to unmute.
Can I unmute her? Let me see if I could do it for her.
Okay.
How's that? Wow. Yay. Some of my poems are tragic, some are political, and this one is comedic. The Ballad of the Clawfoot Floating Circus. Mostly true. I am buoyant in a tub of Epsom salt water. I listen for a promised still small whisper. Ignite candle wicks and silence the echoes to override the worst of newsday fear and fiction. A bath full of weeds and fragrant herbs replace the frantic need for mooring. I abandon monkey mind's undertow. It detracts from rhyme, purpose, or reason. I've employed each isolated pandemic comfort. Written words bathe clogged ears and eyes. I'm drowning in the glow of cones and questions to dispute the skewed, twisted rain of lies. I am washed with complacency and comfort till rampant diving overtakes bathroom calm. The wall shelf is teetering like it may fall. First, Maya Angelou poems jump off the ledge, pages land in my waterlogged hands, my budgie sings and flies from its gilded cage. Yellow-green feathers fly and kiss the floor, floating seaweed mermaids wiggle and squirm. My loofah sponge mind absorbs syllables lilt. I'm dripping wet, wearing Maya and Billy's words. unhooked anxiety slowly drops below the depths of smooth porcelain feet with sculpted claws. Billy Collins' book slips into the fading foam from the perch on the slippery counter. I'm immersed in a floating literary circus in a sea of thick, face-laced obstruction. Miss Angelo jumps in to save Billy as feathers fly and uncaged bird wings flutter. I'm tattooed with wet words of wise conviction, my fingers shrouded in soggy inked paper. Eloquence and comedy mingle and are absorbed through the skin of all who hear or read them. Billy starts writing observational verse 'neath my left foot. Maya, gone from sight, has recited her truth with conviction. Their poetry inspires lofty intention and clever words. Eyes shall rise, echoes down the hall into the kitchen. Words fly through the air and reach friends' ears as they wash pandemic fright off plastic dishes. The round-bellied Buddha looks on with disinterest as splashed soapy water coats his shiny gold varnish. Ganesh, who removes obstacles from authors and scribes, holds his elephant trunk and asks roadblocks to vanish. Ghosts whisper through rising heat, it's time for action. Will come to haunt with ghoulish refrains unless your passion for the gift of peace remains undaunted. Can you hear?
Thank you, Sasha.
I need a reading coach if anyone knows any.
I thought you read that very well. It was very
okay,
nice.
Thank you.
Good. And so I've got, somebody told me there's 2 more hands raised here, at least here. And the first one I have is Laurel Figgenbaum. And Laurel is a member of the Marin Poetry Center, is author of The Daily Absurd, 2014, and Matrimony, 2020. Her most recent work appears online in the Amsterdam. Welcome, Laurel Figgenbaum.
I'm unmuted.
No, you're not. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I've been really enjoyed the poetry and I'm very proud to be part of it. I've not been in Silkworm before. My poem is on page 71 and it's called A Body at Rest. I don't know about the sun or moon, but I don't rise easily. I wax, I wane, but I don't rise easily. In full sun, I shine or shimmer, cry like rain, roam like clouds, clap like thunder, howl like wind, bathe the moon, sparkle or fall like a star. But I don't rise easily. Mine is a reluctant rise, fostered by inertia, a body, if not mind, at rest. Drifting, dreaming, perhaps reading, till time or a gnawing stomach tugs against resistance. And I rise, leaving behind my morning mind. You wanted me to keep on keeping on. I have, and I do, but not easily without you. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurel. Wonderful to hear your poetry. And you're far away from us.
Yes, California.
My goodness, that's great. And I think John Wesick is out there somewhere too, I think. Somewhere.
No, Tommy, I'm in Boston. I used to be in
Geez,
San Diego.
what the heck? I keep getting it wrong, John. Oh, well.
That's my my flaw. As I told you, I'd screw up, and I did it again. So, anywho, I think we have a couple left, and this next poet, I'm going to call on Michael McDonald, and Michael's wife is the cover artist for the book. She's a master rug hooker. And that's her work right there. That's what's on the cover here. Beautiful cover. I opted the more expensive paper in the book. And I think this anthology, can put this up against anything or anybody. Amen.
It's beautiful.
Okay, so where was I? Michael McDonald, son of a storyteller, usually forgets that he is an longtime letter carrier of the Paradise City. Yeah. He now leads a retiring life in his Leeds village abode on the banks of the Mill River. Welcome, Michael McDonald.
Thank you, Tommy. I've really enjoyed hearing everyone. I'm going to read a poem from the Silkworm 15. Because the one in this book is too dense and long and it exhausts me. So here's one from next year's anthology. Imagine there's no John Lennon. It's not easy to visualize. No rock and rolling heaven. No hard rock hell to survive. Well, let's dispense with that prologue and get to the real deal poem. It's called, what's it called? Imagine all you need is John Lennon. Imagine all you need is John Lennon to open some lost, lonesome souls to love, or dance floors on dance floors of holy old rock and roll. I could, or even should, just end it there. But to be fair, let's elaborate, collaborate with this instigator of peace and love. Imagine, all you need is John Lennon singing something like what you and I might sing if we could ring true as spring and fall all in love with all that love brings. Singing something like what you and I might sing if we could ring true as spring and fall all in love with all that love brings. Because all you need is love for all, to love, to laugh, to be happy, to fall in and out of love with yourself and everybody else. Imagine all you need is John Lennon, not dwelling in hell or Candyland heaven, but recomposing himself on Abbey Road in magical mystery music, still making love. He loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. He loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. With a love like that, you know, couldn't be bad.
Thank you, Michael. Thank your wife, Margaret Araj, for the great work that we have for Silkworm this year. And as always, love your poetry. It's a beautiful thing. I think we have one left, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, Faith Kindness.
And I think we have Faith Kindness to close out the show. And let me read her little bio here. Why can't I? Oh, I'm sorry. Poems of pioneer writer F.D. Faith Kindness have been published in the Straw Dog Anthology, Compass Roads, and the journals Equinox, Wise Woman Journal, and Silkworm. In 2019, she published The Art of Waiting, a memoir. Take it away, FD Kindness.
Thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful evening. I love hearing poets read their work in their own voice. When I saw that this year's theme was Rise, I thought of a time that I took a ride in a hot air balloon, and I thought, what a perfect way to treat the idea of rising. Imagination versus experience. Many dawns we hear their distinctive whir outside the window, the idea of drifting aloft, an unnatural cloud over trees. Enchanting. Your gift of a ride replaces the thought, fills my senses with experience. I'm sorry, it's on page 31 if you want to read along. One fall morning in Providence, nervous, waiting for dozens of balloons to set up on the State House lawn. A mass of colorful crafts to take off in tandem. Stomach queasy, excited. Will it feel like an elevator, a car, the choppiness of a boat on the sea? I hold my breath as we rise. Yet reaching altitude, I feel perfectly still. The ground below us is moving. It's a tricky sport, not reliable for traffic. This hot air conveyance with no steering wheel, no brakes. 4 of us standing in a basket, an open flame rising from its center. Whooshes of gas that propel the nylon crown to ascend and maintain course above a real-life map of the city's streets. No one can predict our route or where we'll land. Wind is a factor, temperature, and luck. Our pilot has to search out a suitable site before time and fuel run out. An hour out of a lifetime, I gaze from this perch, amazed, waving down to people looking up, seeing landscape, houses, a field of horses, a marsh, before we come to rest on the concrete parking lot of a shopping mall. We raise a toast with wine. The chase crew is quick to pack everything into a van and return us to our mundane lives. Thank you.
All right. How about a
Why don't we all unmute ourselves and have some actual applause for a moment, shall we?
Okay, that sounds good.
For everyone, that was wonderful.
Great. Done.
Proud evening of poetry. So good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone.
you.
I love you all so much.